Chapter 2.
"What are you doing here?" Draco blurted, pondering how long the elf had been free. His mind echoed with Harry Potter's calm voice at the Wizengamot, faltering only when recounting his brief capture at Malfoy Manor that led to Dobby's death. To clear Draco's name, Potter had recounted how Draco's refusal to identify him had inadvertently saved his life, a grim chapter at the manor concluding with Dobby's sacrifice, skewered by a knife thrown by Draco's charmingly deadly aunt. Potter mentioned burying Dobby himself, like a squib lacking means for a gardener. It hadn't seemed like he was flaunting his virtues, even to a misty-eyed Hermione Granger, known for her strange beliefs about these creatures. He was entranced by his memories, compelled to share not a tale of Draco's heroics, there were none, but of a deceased elf's bravery. An elf, it appeared, who had truly saved Harry Potter. Miraculously, Potter's clumsy attempt to save Draco had succeeded. Such a Gryffindor, or perhaps not so much if his dramatic story about burying the elf was fabricated. "So, you're alive. Did Potter send you?" Draco asked, surprised as his voice emerged unusually high and squeaky. Perhaps he had indulged in some odd brew the previous night.
"What does he want, then?"
Dobby frowned at Draco with a peculiar bewilderment unbecoming of someone Potter had painted as a martyr. "Dobby is not understanding Master Draco, sir." Draco blinked rapidly, questioning what had been in that booze. "Why are you calling me Master anyway?" "Master Draco is Dobby's master," Dobby replied, still puzzled. Say what you would about Azkaban's atmosphere, at least it provided respite from house elves incessantly questioning. "Why is Master Draco saying?" "You're a free elf, aren't you?" Draco interjected with impatience. He itched to ask Dobby why he wasn't dead, but arguing with a house elf was already beneath him. "You don't have a master, right?" Dobby's look was more expressive than any house elf Draco remembered, some terrible blend of emotions Draco hadn't anticipated. "Dobby is not free. Dobby serves Master Lucius and Master Draco and Mistress Narcissa," Dobby whispered, trying not to be overheard, conspiratorial yet wistful. But Dobby would like to be free someday. It figured that St. Potter would mistreat his house elves, or maybe the creature didn't appreciate his new master lamenting his supposed demise. "Do you have any message from Potter?" "No, Master Draco." "Then let me pass," Draco demanded sharply, just as his mother's voice called his name. Draco brushed past, driven by hunger towards her voice in the dining room. His robes, upon smoothing them, seemed undisturbed, and Mother recently hadn't noticed when he wore yesterday's attire again. Breakfast at home, a sight he thought forever gone. Before Potter took up his case, part of Draco had resigned to end his days sharing breakfast with Dementas. Yet here he was, summoned by his mother's voice to their grand dining room, as it once was before the manor slipped from their ownership. As if stepping back in time. As if Father, too, awaited him patiently, not left to rot where Potter refused to save him. Father was there, seated at the head of the table with a daily prophet, as healthy and commanding as Draco ever recalled. "Father," Draco whispered, rubbing his eyes as if dispelling a dream. Father gestured impatiently to Draco's usual seat to his left. Draco's feet moved on their own, a numbness spreading through his senses, until his mother's voice expelled everything but fear. "It's your Hogwarts letter, Draco," she announced with excitement, carefree in a way Draco thought he would never witness again. With trembling hands, Draco gingerly opened the letter, recalling how he'd nearly torn it before. It was intact this time, unchanged. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, Sachef Warlock. Supreme Mugwump, International Confeed of Wizards. Dear Mr. Malfoy, we are pleased to inform you that you have a place at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Draco stared at the letter until Father snorted in derision. Don't act so surprised, Draco. With magic as weak as yours for a Malfoy, did you think my position on the board wouldn't get my son into Hogwarts? Draco's finger traced the inked words in McGonagall's straight handwriting from Transfiguration lessons and this very letter once before. There it was, the most impossible combination, Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. May I see the paper, Father? Draco asked, his composure not what his parents seemingly expected after his prior agitation. Father handed him the prophet as house elves served eggs hollandaise exactly as Father liked them, runny and turmeric-tinged. Draco had always compared it to bubotuberpus, but had learned to keep such notions to himself. He couldn't believe the taste, the runny eggs and sauce, the crunch of the muffin beneath egg, bacon, and sauce, with turmeric's distracting cloud of flavor. There it was, precisely as Father preferred. The newspaper headline was refreshingly devoid of war news. For Draco, it had been a while since he'd encountered such an anomaly. There was no mention of Muggle-born registrations, the terror of Death Eater assaults, glimpses of Harry Potter, or threats from the Dark Lord. Instead, it showcased a grinning portrait of Gilderoy Lockhart, victoriously posed beside a large defeated mythical beast supposedly in Zanzibar, accompanied by the headline, Lockhart triumphs over Papa Ba. Below this was the date, July 24th, 1991. Draco let the paper slip from his fingers. Replacing it, he briskly snatched his Hogwarts letter from his mother's hand. I need to leave, Draco informed them, his voice half apologetic as he stumbled toward the exit. Return here, Draco. Father's command came, but Draco brushed it aside. You haven't had breakfast, Mother's voice followed. I detest those bubotuberpus eggs. Draco bellowed, having hastily crammed both English muffins into his mouth as if he'd been starving. He dashed out of the dining area, almost toppling Dobby in his rush. My apologies, he said to the little roadblock, just in case this misshapen house elf was somehow still linked to Potter, and this wasn't leading to the revelation he dreaded. Draco was astonished at the shrill petulance in his own voice. His room, except it wasn't his room, appeared before him. A glowing dragon decal decorated the door, designed to emit heatless flames as it moved about in the darkness. Draco had taken it down during the summer of his 3rd or 4th year, deeming it childish. Or perhaps it was after his father first landed in Azkaban, when he cleared his room of anything perceived as unbecoming for a man poised to defend his family. Save for his stuffed dragon. Imogi had been safely stored in his closet, and was still there when he returned to the manor the previous night, covered in dust but untouched. He'd left her hidden away. Imogi was a gift from Aunt Andromeda, from a time when Mother still spoke with her. Aunt Andromeda had shared with Draco the tale of an Asian dragon named Imogi, who existed in human form until her 17th birthday. She bore a dragon-shaped mark on her shoulder, telling of her true nature. With a similar birthmark, Draco had been named after her suggestion, instead of his father's choice of Lucius. A small part of Draco had once yearned, in that dismal June when he turned 17, just days after witnessing Dumbledore's demise, for the birthmark to have transformed him, as promised, into a dragon. He later heard of one of Potter's adventures, riding a dragon out of Gringotts. It wasn't as if there weren't worse fates than becoming Potter's mount, Draco mused amidst his anxiety, tucked into his childhood bed with a contraband radio. On his bed, the young Draco found Imogi lying next to his pillow, atop sheets now silver with golden snitches rather than plain green. The dragon plush was dust-free, her baby dragon tooth necklace still intact. Her long green form curled over the snitches, her red spikes rigid and red belly more plush than Draco recalled. If playthings could appear ageless, Imogi certainly did. Yet she mirrored Draco's own youthful reflection in the room's full-length mirror. Draco looked embarrassingly young, a fact he begrudgingly accepted as the prophet had insisted. Specifically, 11 years old. He barely recognized his former self, astonished at his own diminutive stature. Abandoning the dragon on the bed, he rummaged through his drawers, brimming with children's robes, before realizing he hadn't yet acquired a wand. That would come days later in Diagon Alley, when Father would escort him to purchase his school supplies. The day he first met Harry Potter. It was just like Potter to upend Draco's existence even before their paths crossed. Reaching toward the mirror to touch his own reflection did little to alleviate the bizarre reality before him. He recalled fragments of his 18-year-old visage in another mirror, bright, engraved with mysterious symbols, swiftly slipping from his memory save for the faint remembrance of shattering it without consequence. Yet this paradox was not the foremost enigma he currently endured. A magic mirror had evidently transported him into his past, pinpointing the very day he'd received his Hogwarts acceptance. Or perhaps insanity had claimed him. Whether facing madness or mysterious magic, the choice felt equally deranged. On the day Potter returned his wand, it simply had to be Potter's doing. And Dobby had been exhibiting unsettling behavior. Could he be part of this? More believable was the notion of an elaborate illusion or hallucination than his mind crossing into actual past time travel. Such a magical anomaly, where only consciousness traveled and not his entire self, puzzled him. Once fascinated by such whimsies of time travel, Draco had seized upon his father's rebuke, abandoning his ambitions to become an unspeakable. More plausible was that he lay under a curse, with Mother desperately seeking aid, or he languished like Aunt Bella on a plush bed at St. Mungo's, regarded as just another unhinged Death Eater by indifferent staff. Death Eater. In an urgent motion, Draco pulled up his robe's left sleeve, revealing nothing but a bare wrist. The mark of the serpent and skull had vanished. Maybe losing touch with reality was a better option than holding on to it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!